Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mike with Project Dad Life. Today we are finally going to get our kitchen cabinet hardware installed. Now we have a couple hurdles to jump before we do that. We've ordered several different hardware options from Amazon, eBay, online. They've all come in looking cheap and flimsy and dingy, nothing like the pictures that they look like online. These actually look like they were spray painted with gold spray paint. So we bit the bullet, we bought the more expensive option and got solid brass hardware. Now we love the way these look, they're perfect size, they're gonna look beautiful on here, but we don't like the fact that they're so shiny. So the first thing we're gonna do is do a two-step simple process and we're gonna antique that brass. After we're done with that, we're actually gonna install them on our cabinet faces. First, we're gonna use a couple specialty tools, which I'll show you guys and show you how to do it to level our face of the cabinet first before we drill and install it. Now let's get started on this antiquing process. Let's head to the shop. Welcome to the lab. Today is going to be a simple two-part process of aging brass. Step one is stripping your brass of any chemicals or polish. I'm going to be using lacquer thinner. You can use degreaser, whatever you want to make sure that there's any residue or polish off of your brass and it's 100% brass. Step two is the antiquing process. That is super simple. It is 2 parts vinegar, 1 part salt. We're going to mix that solution together and then we're going to soak our brass in it in a container. Keep in mind, you don't have to completely cover the brass up with liquid. You actually want just a little bit of puddling in the bottom of your container, and the actual steam or the vapors from the solution will antique the brass itself. At that point, you simply just leave it in there, keep an eye on it for a couple hours, and when it gets to the point of antique that you like, you take it out, rinse it, and dry it, and install it. So that's what we're gonna do. Let's get started. So I simply put all my brass hardware into a quart size painter's bucket from Home Depot, and I will simply fill it up with lacquer thinner and let it soak for a couple minutes, and then I'll pull them all out and dry them. Perfect amount. It should only take a couple minutes to strip these down. Pull them out, wipe them off. They're all dried. Now I'm simply going to put them in a shallow, kind of bigger Tupperware bin. That is complete. Now we're going to mix our vinegar and salt mixture. This is not rocket science. It's simply 1 part salt to about 2 parts vinegar. And you don't need a whole lot because remember I said you don't have to actually submerge this brass. You really just want a thin layer on the bottom of the pan, and that way the vapors from this mixture will actually anodize or oxidize the brass by itself without actually sitting in it. Little handy dandy stirring stick. Give that a good stir. And we'll pour it in the bottom. And because the vapor is actually doing the work, you want to put a lid on the top. And that is a simple way of antiquing brass. Now off to the kitchen so we can get started and do a little prep before we actually install this hardware. Before we start drilling through our cabinet faces, we definitely want to make sure that they're level and square. If they're not and your face is tilted like this, you're obviously going to drill through it in the wrong spot and it'll never look level. So the easiest way to do that, and what I like to use, is the best tool I own. This is a laser level. You can simply put it down on a tripod like so, and with this one it has a cross on it, so I will actually do 4 cabinet faces at the same time. So I can simply adjust this. It will hang and level itself on its own, and then I can simply go through here. I can open up my doors and I can adjust all my hinges and the faces on the drawers and get them perfectly square to the eye. On the back of the cabinet here, you can see the doors have these little adjustable tabs, and these are all pretty standard with all your cabinet faces. So you simply loosen this up from behind and then you adjust it, push it back in, kind of get it snug so you can kind of move it and it'll stay secure. Once you get it lined up and sitting perfectly, then you just simply tighten that Phillips head down right there. I'm gonna go around and do the entire kitchen, get everything leveled and square. All the faces are adjusted and leveled exactly perfectly with the laser level helping us out. So now we're gonna get our jig out and we're gonna install the hardware. We got about 2 hours already in the soaking in the vinegar solution, and I think they're exactly where we want them. So I pull the top off and I rinse them out a little bit with water, and you can see on some of them where there was a puddle of the vinegar solution laying on the actual hardware, you can simply take a Scotch-Brite pad and knock that down a little bit and kind of scuff it up almost to the point to where you want it to look, and then dry them off, rinse them off, and they will be perfect. This is exactly what we are going for. As you can see, these turned out awesome, exactly how we wanted them. They definitely have that antique or aged brass vibe. And keep in mind, these will wear over time and just continuously wearing and continuously changing. So we love it like this. So we are going to stop at this point on the antiquing, rinse it off, dry them off, and go install them. And the easiest way to do this is use this jig. After you get your cabinet faces and the doors all level and even, we ordered this Amazon jig right here. Usually when I've used these in the past, they never really line up with the holes exactly where you want it. So being that we want our knobs to be mounted about in this location here, I'm simply gonna take a little metal ruler. I'm gonna measure and mark exactly where I want the knob to be, place my jig on there and see if one of these holes line up. If not, we'll just drill a hole right through there, and then that way we'll have this template to use on all the upper doors. This hole right here, and it is just a 1/4 inch left of center. So that's the one we'll use. So let's start punching holes. First one is mounted. You want to do me a favor? So you take this knob and see the holes are pre-drilled. Insert your screw through there and just screw all the knobs on. You got it? Awesome. Thanks, dude. So the drawer pulls will be a little more difficult to mount. Here's the jig we're going to use here. Now, as you can see, I had to drill a couple extra holes because we didn't line up exactly where we wanted our pulls to be center. There was no holes for that option. So what we're going to do is use the custom holes I drilled, and I will simply mark a center line from left to right on the face of the drawer, and then I will mark a center line from top to bottom on the face of the drawer. Line this plate up and then pre-drill our holes. It'll be that simple. I have 6 of these same size drawer faces, so this jig will work for all those, and then we'll adjust a little bit and get these shallow top drawers last. We got all the kitchen cabinet hardware installed last night and it looks beautiful. Came out perfectly. But we do have one repair we have to make before we call this job complete. Here's the drawer face that we sacrificed while mounting all our sample hardware that we ended up not liking, but we're left with all these holes. So let's fix these holes and patch them really quickly, and then this will be the last drawer face we have to mount. So this is one easy way to patch holes. I'm simply going to take my sawdust catcher off one of my sanders, make a little pile of sawdust from hardwood, and then I'm going to add some glue. Now this is kind of like a 50-50 mixture. You mix it up until you get a wood-like paste, and then you can fill in the holes. Now most of the time you can just surface patch the holes with just some wood putty or something like that, but because the hardware that we are using, they are face screwed, meaning that the screws actually do not go all the way through from the back side like traditional. These actually screw and thread through the whole cabinet from the front. And of course the hardware we picked ended up lining up perfectly with some of the holes that we already have there. So I need to patch these up, that way I can have new threads to mount these. I'm just going to take a putty knife and just mix this up until I get the kind of the consistency that is going to be easy to work with. because with this wood glue and sawdust, this will dry up and easily accept some new threads through it. So I think that's about enough right there. Once they're filled, I'll simply take a damp rag and wipe off the excess and give this about a day to dry before I thread these holes. Now it's time for the big reveal. This hardware came out perfect. It was exactly what we wanted and it was so worth the wait. If you guys like this type of content, could you please take a second and like and subscribe to the channel? Help show your support. We love making these videos. I really enjoy doing these projects and sharing it with you guys, and I just really have fun with it, and I'm glad you guys like it as well, and thank you for watching. Now let's get to the hardware. And that's a wrap, guys. Keep in mind this is a natural brass at this point, so it's stripped and uncleared of any protectant. That being said, your fingerprints or any type of kitchen grease or debris will continue to age the brass over the years. So if something pops up or it turns a color that you don't like, simply take some Scotch-Brite, either the green or red pads, and kind of hit the high points and scuff them down to the point of where you like them again. It's always ever changing with the brass. That's why I love it. It kind of has its own life to it. Now mine did come out with a couple areas where it had like the rainbow kind of gasoline look from the process of oxidization. I simply took these Scotch-Brite pads and knocked those areas down and it came out perfectly. Thank you guys for watching. As always, we will see you next week for another project. God bless. Have a good weekend.